All right. So this is what the online portal looks like. And it's a portal because it takes you into the world of congregational remittance and your remittance reports, finance reports. We have launched this with the congregational remittance reports. There is a hope that eventually the pension reports and the health and dental invoices will also be managed through this same system. But for now, we're seeing how it works. All right, so when you open it up and are successfully logged in, this is the screen that you will look at. It's slightly different. Maggie has logged in through her national church account, and this is what our screen looks like. You can see on the left-hand side, there are a bunch of folders that all have the names of presbyteries on it. So in your case, when you log in, you're only going to see your presbytery folder. You won't see all the rest of the presbytery folders. If you're a congregational contact, you're also only going to see your congregational folder. You won't see anybody else's congregational folder. So what we want to do is we're going to go into the congregational folder and see what you can see when you do that. So in order to find your congregations folder, you need to open and click on the presbytery folder. So Maggie has just clicked on Cape Breton, and we're not picking on Cape Breton at all. You're going to see some samples of a presbytery and a congregation. Please just keep everything confidential. It's just for training purposes, but it's easier for us to train with the live system. Okay, so Maggie, choose maybe choose one that will have a lot. Let's go with our one of the churches.
Then maybe I'll pick another presbytery then.
Yeah, let's go for Halifax.
Yes. And
we'll go with Church of St. David's. Okay, so Church of St. David's in Halifax. You can see when you're on this, so the congregational folder is highlighted. So the red tells you that you're in the folder. And then to the right-hand side, you're going to see what are called Monopoly cards. And they're called Monopoly cards because they look like those cards that you use when you play Monopoly. Hopefully some of you are familiar with that. If you're not, just know that if you did play Monopoly, you'd get cards that kind of look like this. So you can see at the top, it says HL070. That's the congregational code for Church of St. David, Halifax. And then it says monthly congregational remittance summary. If you hover over it, you're going to see the full title. But you'll see monthly congregational. Okay, so this is the Monopoly card you're going to want to look at. Now, Maggie has one to the left that says daily congregational. That's because as national office staff, she gets to see the ones that are produced daily, but you're only going to see the monthly ones. We don't think that you needed to see the daily ones. It becomes too much information. However, if you ever need your congregational remittance report and you need something that's not on the monthly report and you need it before the next monthly report is going to be produced, give us a phone call because we can look up the daily congregational report and give you the exact to the day information that is in the system. Okay, so she's got on the Monopoly card. There's two ways that you can view the reports using the Monopoly card. You go to the little eye icon, or you go to the little cloud icon with the download arrow. And then you can see when you hover over it, it says download report. And then the eye says view selected report. So what is the selected report? Well, if you look at the little drop down, there's the selected report. So she just clicked on the little arrow next to the date, and you can see that there's a number of reports available. So we launched this system in March 2023. So you can see that the date is the one at the very bottom. But we you probably want to just look at the latest report, because all of the reports are always from the beginning of the year and then reflect the gifts that the church has received up until the month of the previous, up until the previous month. So you can see the November 15th report is going to have all gifts up until October 31st. So let's take a look at the report and see, when you click on the eye, what you're going to see. Okay, so here comes the report. Maggie will make it a little bit bigger for you. This should look familiar to you. It should, it's the same remittance report that we've been mailing out to you with a few upgrades. So you can see that you've got the name of the church, the congregational code. The line says funds deposited between January 1st, 2023 to October 31st, 2023. So that means this report reflects all the gifts that have been received and deposited into the PCC's account by October 31st. If you sent a check October 28th and we didn't actually receive it until November 2nd, even though it's now November 15th, it's not going to be reflected in this report. Okay, there's a few instructions in it. It says what is reflected in this report. This is all gifts to the PCC, Presbyterian Sharing, PWS&D, Canadian Ministries, International Ministries, Gifts of Change, Special Funds. All of that will be recorded here, as well as the lending funds, if you've made any payments to the lending fund. It does not include pension, health or dental, or other invoice payments. All right, you can see all of the submissions. You've got the date received on the left-hand side, the fund description, the check number, and the amount. Again, the date received is the date that the gift was received, not the date that is on your check. It's amazing. You know, most of the time Canada Post is pretty good and we get checks within a couple of weeks when they were mailed. Occasionally it's been months that they are received. So it's important the check number can really help you reconcile and make sure we're talking about the same check. So you can see there's different lines that may have the same check number that are going to the different accounts, and that's how that works. But you've got all the breakdowns. All right, at the very end, you'll get a summary. So you get a summary of the amounts that were sent to Presbyterian Sharing. So you can see right there, the Presbyterian Sharing. There we include the recommended allocation, the church's accepted allocation, the year-to-date received, and then the balance of the accepted. So that's the amount that still we're waiting to receive. Then you can see there's also summaries for PWS&D and for other mission. Those are for all contributions to any PWS&D account or any other PCC mission account. All right. You'll see on the left-hand side that this one has two lines. Year-to-date gifts from individuals for PWS&D is $700. So that subtotal for PWS&D, it includes all of the gifts that were sent to PWS&D plus the amount from individuals. If you want to reconcile what you sent to PWS&D, you need to deduct that $700 from the $5,501. So it's important for the T3010 when you're doing reporting that, and for your congregation to say the money that is sent from the congregation. So for that, you'd want to deduct the amount from individuals. But for our purposes, we're interested in the amount that also came from individuals who asked it to be credited to the church. So you can use the full amount when you're reporting on your statistical report, which lowers your dollar base a little bit. In order for an individual to, they have to ask us to credit it to a congregation. We don't do this automatically. We don't know what congregations individuals belong to. If they give an online donation or if they give on our coupons, they can check off that they want it to be credited to a congregation, and we will do that credit. Other PCC mission, maybe Canadian Ministries, as I said, International Ministries. And then you can see this one also had some loan fund totals. And so there's a loan fund. If your congregation hasn't contributed anything to loan fund, or there are no gifts from individuals, those lines will not appear on your reports. They only appear when there is gifts. Presbyterian Sharing, PWS&D, and other mission will always appear, whether there are gifts or no gifts. All right.
Karen, there is a question on the chat from
Okay.
Janice.
Yep.
Yeah. Can you explain accepted allocations, please?
Oh yeah, accepted allocation. Great question. So Presbyterian Sharing, there's always a recommended allocation. And the recommended allocation is 10% of your dollar base. So congregations, it's written in the Book of Forms that this is supposed to be distributed by your presbytery, though we usually send it out directly to congregations as well. But then the congregation is supposed to accept an allocation. So they're supposed to look at the recommended allocation and say, what can we realistically think that we can send in? So they may accept, you may be recommended $30,000, and with knowing the circumstances of your congregation, you're like, well, we think we can really only send in $15,000 this year. So you're supposed to accept an allocation, send it back to your presbytery, or report it to us. We record that, and then we always share it in those reports that go to presbytery, what the accepted allocation is. So it's a process that was meant for budgeting and to help us sort of keep track of where we are. The contributions for this are voluntary. So sometimes people say, oh, well, we don't accept an allocation. We just send in what people give on their envelopes, or what they give designated. Well, that's fine. Then look at what people gave designated last year and say, do you think that we can get that much again this year? And as a congregation, accept that amount, because it really helps us know as we compare from year to year if we're going to be expecting a big drop in contributions throughout the year. So it helps us if you're not able to send it at the year end, say your major donor died or something like that, you can just send us a note at the year end and say, sorry, we weren't able to make it. This is what happened. We always like knowing why, just because it helps us keep track and keeps us informed. But it's really helpful. And it is part of the sort of Presbyterian way of doing it with this accepted allocation. So that's what the accepted allocation is, and the recommended allocation. Yep. Gail. Oh, you have to
That's
unmute.
an old hand. I think that's an old hand.
Oh, was that an old hand? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine. Great, thanks. All right. Well, oh, here we've got Bill has a question. Yep. You have to unmute.
Right. I was holding this to the end because it doesn't really affect other people, but I just noticed there how Karen's got the three of the four Alberta presbyteries, and you probably know Central Alberta, Peace, and Edmonton are amalgamating as January 1st. So will that mean our congregational number change?
That will probably, I imagine that you're going to be given a new congregational number, and we're going to have to do a new presbytery folder. So the presbytery folder, all of that is set up in the back end. So once you're given a new number, and I'm not 100% sure, but once that's a GAO decision, but if you are given a new number, then we'll see whether or not we can change your current number to the new code. I'm hoping that we can, but it's a good question. We haven't had to experience it yet, so we'll walk through it together, but know that it won't happen until January 1st. So use your old codes till the end of the year.